Welcome back, boys and girls. So today we got a quick one. So CES was last week. A lot of amazing stuff announced. A lot of cool little things. The stuff that I'm really interested in is things that have to do with retro gaming. Retrobit, they had a lot of awesome stuff. Got a little, some inside looks at some things. Visited Retrobit's offices. Actually got to hold the new Sega Saturn and Genesis controller. Got to play around with their Go Retro portable. A lot of cool stuff. We're going to be doing like a little video slideshow and discussing a lot of things with Retrobit in the near future. I've been doing a lot of content on them recently. But Hyperkin, not to be outdone, they're a big name as well. They had a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to showcase during CES. So as you see here, one of the only images that's been circulating with some new cool stuff from Hyperkin. In this picture, you will see, the Super Retron down here, at the bottom, which has been released. It's a pretty cool system. I think out of all the HD clone systems that are out right now, the Super Retron's maybe in the middle for me. It wins a lot of points because of the awesome controller that it came with, the high quality plastics that it uses, the design behind it. It is a very solid, nice looking piece of hardware. It's something, if it was released from Nintendo, you would be happy with the build quality. But, every one of these manufacturers, there's always some kind of quirks, and Hyperkin, they have the same issues. They have different issues, but the same issues as every clone console manufacturer out there. Reason being, it's not original hardware, so nothing is ever 100% right. But all these companies have put out solid, efforts. If you want to look at the reviews and the comparisons and all that, I'll have a little playlist in the description you can peep out. I like all the systems, not equally necessarily, but there's definitely pros and cons to each. But some of the bigger things that Hyperkin had shown and discussed are also in this picture. So we do have the Ultra Game Boy, whatever it's called, smack dab in the middle of this image. This right here is the least interesting thing to me because we also have Game Boy clones that have been out for a long while that blow this thing out of the water, wherever it's at over there. Yeah, this thing is made out of metal. Supposedly, it looks clean, it looks nice. There's a lot of little features and options, but it only plays original Game Boy games. I can buy an original Game Boy Pocket or an original Game Boy or a Game Boy Color or a GB Boy Color, the clone Game Boy Color, for cheaper than what this is going to be, the MSRP is going to be. And you can also, get a Game Boy Color and mod it with a front light, back light, whatever, and it's still going to be cheaper than this thing. You can get a Game Boy Advance, and it's going to be cheaper than this. And you can add that, Game Boy Advance backlit screen to it for, pretty much the same price as what this system's going to sell for. So it's kind of a pointless thing in my eyes. I didn't really want to touch on that too much, but to me, that's the stinker of this whole lineup right here, is that Game Boy. If it was Game Boy Color, it might be a little different. If it was Game Boy Advance, that'd be a whole different ball game there, because the only other thing that I have seen and has not been discussed for a while is the Super Retro Boy from Retrobit that plays Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance. Still in the works according to them, but we don't have much news on it right now. Hyperkin seems to have more solid plans as far as the release of their Game Boy. But like I said, it's not very interesting to me when you can easily get an original Game Boy or a modded Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, or a clone GB Boy, and it's going to do the same as this, if not better, for a lower price. But moving on, the next thing we have is the Superboy SFC. And actually, as of the recording of this video, it's going to be available tomorrow. So I'll have some links if you want to pre-order that. You could pre-order that from Amazon or Castlemania Games. Castlemania Games should be shipping them this week sometime. Amazon, they have it listed as being released the 23rd, but I don't think they're getting their stock in on time to be able to ship them that early. So I think no matter who you order from, Castlemania or Amazon, you'll probably get them around the same time. You'll probably get it cheaper at Castlemania. You can use my coupon code Pixel10, get 10% off. Pretty sure it'll work for that. If not, hey, you're still getting free shipping, so peep it out. The thing with that, with the Superboy SFC, the main difference between it and the previous version, the Superboy S, is that it does have 4:3 and 16:9 aspect ratio that you can switch. Supposedly you hold the brightness button down or something for a couple seconds and it switches the aspect ratios. So that's kind of neat. You can also plug it into your TV, you know, through AV cables. You could plug in original controllers and play it that way. It is pretty cool, pretty nice device. Retails for 99 bucks, I believe, coming out tomorrow. So that's like, out of the new stuff, that's like the thing that's coming out the soonest, because the rest of the stuff we really don't know. The Retron 77 or whatever it's called, the Atari box up there, well, it's not really the Atari box, but the Atari HD clone, no firm release date on that yet. Don't even know the controllers or anything, you know, for sure. But should be pretty sweet if you're an Atari 2600 collecting. I've actually been seeing 2600 games floating around quite a bit lately. I almost want to get a small little collection in anticipation of that device, because there's really not been any Atari clones that I can think of other than the flashbacks, but those are just plug and plays. To have something that you can plug in HDMI and play your old school games, pretty cool. Atari's a different, you know, area. You got to be, you know, a little bit older or have grown up with that, or really have some nostalgia for Atari to really dig that. I'm gonna mess with it just because that was the first system I had, was a 2600, and I thought it was pretty sweet back in the day. I have a harder time playing some of those games now, but it would still be neat to revisit some of them. Like, have that system, if it's priced right, have a nice little handful, maybe 5 to 10 games. Nice little collection to play every once in a while. I don't need more than that, I don't think. But I think that would be pretty cool. Definitely looking forward to that. But out of all these items, and from what the title of my video, the thumbnail, you know what I'm most excited for, and that is the MegaRetroN HD. Bam, look at that thing up in the corner. Look at the style of that. It's still got the little cut corner, the little Hyperkin logo that glows, which I think is a nice touch. It really speaks of their branding, and, you know, it's kind of iconic to them. I dig it. It looks cool. But just look at that. It looks like a legit Sega Genesis. Obviously, they can't get away with, you know, calling it a Sega Genesis or anything like that. But look at it. Just look at that little fella. It screams Sega Genesis to me. And with it being HD, having, you know, the multi-region aspect ratio, having it running in line with the Retron HD and the Super Retron HD, I think is going to be amazing. My one concern, biggest concern, and we were talking about this, not necessarily this device, but we were talking about this with the Retrobit Super Retro Trio Plus with the HD Sega that's built into it. We were talking about this on Rock Solid Productions stream that he did the other night. If you haven't checked his channel out, pretty legit stuff going on over there. But in his chat, we were, you know, somebody was asking, like, hey, does the Retrobit system have stereo sound? So a couple of us were scrambling around like, you know what? I'm not 100%. Let me find that out. So I did my unscientific test, you know, headphones on and blaring the music, seeing, you know, with Sonic the Hedgehog, the coins should alternate, and, you know, stereo, you're going to have a left and right channel. Well, it combined the channels, so you're getting exactly the same in each ear. So no, it wasn't stereo, but it turns out a lot of Sega Genesis clones were not stereo. They did not have stereo sound. So that's kind of a bummer for some people. For me, it didn't really bother me too much until these guys were really talking about it. But even then, it's still not a big nuisance to me. But if this Hyperkin system, the MegaRetroN, had stereo sound, it would be out of this world. It would set itself above the rest. Just make sure those colors are good, make sure the sound is good. Stereo or not, as long as it sounds and looks good, it's not going to be a huge thing. But having that additional, the stereo sound, will be amazing. The thing that will set it apart beside anything besides the stereo sound, like I said, get the sound and the colors legit and you're good. But the thing that will set this system apart from anything else will be 32X compatibility. We don't know if it's going to. Most Sega Genesis clones do not have 32X compatibility due to the chipset, whatever. The funny thing, the interesting thing is that back in the day, pretty close to around the times these original systems were out, there were lots of clone systems. There were systems for the NES, the Super Nintendo, and the Genesis that were full on trying to pass themselves off as legitimate products. And they were almost one-to-one copies of the original hardware. And the Sega Genesis had a lot of that as well. And those clones, even ones that didn't look like the Sega Genesis, they were still pretty close as far as hardware went. And they supported 32X. So that's amazing if way back in the day they could do that. But as of late, you know, these past years, we haven't seen that. We haven't had that compatibility. So Hyperkin, if you're listening, that would be the one thing. You know, I don't know if we can bug for Sega CD compatibility. It would probably set this quite a bit higher in price. But 32X compatibility, be able to plop your 32X on there, power that bad boy up, plop it in there, and it works. That will really be a killer system right there. You guys will cause me to spend a lot of money because then I'll start collecting a handful of 32X games. I had a few in the past, got rid of them. Wasn't a big 32X person, but there is a few games that are really good. There's some that are very expensive as well, but I would definitely get my hands on a 32X and try to buy a handful of the games that I've played before that I know I enjoy and play it on this system. So that could be cool. What do you guys think? I'm excited. I love what all these companies are doing. I test everything out. I should be getting my hands on a Superboy SFC pretty soon, doing a video review on that. Just don't know for sure how soon I'll get one. But one way or another, I'm going to get one. So keep an eye out for that. When any of these other systems come out, I'm going to be doing stuff on them. Next up, hopefully within weeks, you know, it'll be after the Superboy SFC, I'd imagine. Keep an eye out for that Super NT from Analog. I am going to be doing a full-on review of that and playing with it and, you know, exposing whatever I can with that system for you guys to see. So, hope you guys appreciate this video. Smash that like button, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff, and I will catch you guys next time. Boom! Peace out. Bye-bye. Bye.